Welcome to the Zandbergen Report, where wealth strategies and investment wisdom collide, featuring your distinguished host and certified financial planner, Bart Zandbergen.
Welcome to our show of Dream Chasers and Wealth Makers. We are thrilled to be back in studio today with a new episode of the Zandbergen Report. I'm proud to bring you the movers, shakers, and difference makers who are passionate about sharing what they've learned and what you need to know today. Today, I'm pleased to have in studio the only time we've had a second, repeat offender.
Repeat offender. That's a great way to start here. And somewhat tied into what the work she does here. I don't know if that's a good term to use here, right?
Anyway, sorry to deflate. Regan Phillips, welcome to the show.
Oh, hi, Bart. It's good to see you.
I'm going to build her. I'm going to build her back up. You say yes, wealth makers and dream chasers. Today, you got to add a third category: world shakers.
Shakers.
World shakers or world shapers. Maybe that's the way to put it here.
World shaper. I'm going to say she's a world shaper.
Yeah.
So, Regan, I haven't seen you in over 3 months now. How are you?
I am doing all right, Bart. It has been a while. How are you?
Yeah, as good as it can be expected, I think, like most of us, just adapting to this new world.
Yeah, it's definitely been a time, and it has been heavy and challenging and fraught with the need to be innovative and creative, and but I'm very happy to be connecting with you today and to have the opportunity to be a repeat sharer.
Guest is the correct term here.
Thank you.
So let's get into that. And the reason I thought it was so important is because you work for such a great cause, and like most charities are experiencing, I think, tougher times. So we'll get into that. But so let's talk about CASA, and let's remind our guests about what CASA is, its mission, and so forth. So do you mind helping us with that?
Of course, not a problem. CASA stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates. We are a national organization, and we are essentially empowered by the juvenile court to create meaningful relationships between incredibly big-hearted community volunteers and children that are in the foster care system. These volunteers become both a voice for them in the courtroom, writing reports and updating social workers and other folks as to what these children need and what's going on with them. But they're also a role model and a friend to a child who has really had a traumatic time and is in need of someone to look out for them.
Mm-hmm. Such a needed position. So, and thank you for all your efforts there.
And can I just jump in for one quick second and tell everybody I had personal experience with this. My wife and I only have one daughter. We adopted her through foster care, and I was impressed with not only the social workers who were assigned to her case as she's in foster care, and then we had an advocate trying to help us find somebody to adopt through foster care, but the court-appointed special advocate, this person that shows up and is not really there to serve anybody but the kids' needs and to really help guide them through what's a confusing thing for me, the court system. You can imagine a 10-year-old or an 8-year-old.
Yeah, it's confusing for most people in general.
Right.
Yeah.
But thank you for that, Paul. Yeah.
So they do God's work here, really. I'm telling you.
Yeah, that is for sure. Regan, your background's even interesting. Do you mind reminding everyone how you got to where you are today?
Sure. It's actually sort of been a full circle experience for me with CASA, one of those organizations that gets into your heart and is hard to shake. I started as an intern, actually, with CASA of New York City when I was in graduate school studying social work. And something about this mission really resonated with me and motivated me to want to become an advocate on a larger scale, prompting my decision to go to law school. And I actually came back to Orange County for that and practiced in this area upon passing the bar, representing kids in foster care here locally in Orange County for some years. I served as a member of the board of CASA and got involved with some of the fundraising years before I ever even stepped into the office to work as part of the staff. Which happened, gosh, it'll be 5 years ago in July, initially running programs and now running the organization as CEO since December of 17. But having had that experience and seeing firsthand in the courtroom setting how valuable, I mean, I truly thought a law degree and an ability to advocate from that angle would allow me to make greater change. And what I think I've come to realize is that it is the advocate, it is that single relationship that can be so powerful in terms of creating change for these kids, despite the well intentions of all the professionals that are in that space.
Yeah. Wow. So COVID has impacted so many different people, so many businesses, so many different charities. How has CASA been affected by this?
Yeah, well, there's a number of different ways that the organization has been impacted, and if I may, I'd like to focus really initially on how this impacts the kids. You know, from the kids that we serve, from the perspective of global pandemic, increased stress in the home, quarantine. It's scary to think that kids that are in really marginalized situations or potentially unsafe situations were now out of the public eye. Most children who are victims of neglect or abandonment, which are the kids that we serve in the foster system, come to the attention of the court because of a mandated reporter, most typically a teacher or a nurse. And so now you've got, a higher correlation of or higher instances of stress in the home and less opportunity for any kind of concerning behavior to be identified by someone who can do something about it. So we actually saw a number of things. We saw the number of referrals and detentions being dropped severely because there just weren't these eyes on kids anymore. There wasn't an opportunity for mandated reporters to call anything in or to report a concern. It doesn't mean it's not happening, and in fact, it's suspected to be on the rise by the number of hospitalizations. That's actually the cases that we're seeing at this point, really severe cases where there's been a hospitalization of some kind. And then it also led to, a decrease in contact between social services and the kids who need their support, as well as the court. No hearings, no face-to-face visitations. Needs frequently fall through the cracks, but during this period of time, they were falling through the cracks a little bit more substantially and a little bit more quickly, just due to timeliness. So we found that our advocates, who, though they weren't able to have face-to-face contact with kids during this time, it was often the advocate that was identifying a need or a challenge, and being the one to be able to address it because they got to it first, and social services has just not been able to quite keep up given the changes. So the need has increased dramatically. We're paying special attention to the kids on our wait list because those kids aren't matched and don't have that special set of eyes and ears right now, making sure that we're in contact with them. And we've also seen a huge uptick in the number of potential volunteers coming through training. We did a real quick pivot and moved everything online, something we've been talking about, but push comes to shove, you got to make it happen. And thankfully, folks have been showing up and doing it, which is great. We'll be prepared with an army of volunteers for when this need is revealed at the end of all of this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you give us some of the background information on this? When we adopted our daughter, which was a number of years ago now, it was like 500,000 kids in the foster care system, half of whom are never going home to anybody, which was the sad reality. We take these kids out to protect them and then can't find them a home, and then at 18, just cut them loose and give them a couple $100 and say good luck and I hope you make it. What is the size of the population today? Give us some scary statistics, and then how do you guys get paid? It's a court-appointed special advocate. Wouldn't the courts pay all of your services here?
Oh, so many layers there, Paul. Well, good question. To your question about the sheer numbers, we're talking right here in Orange County. That's the CASA organization that I lead, and in Orange County alone, there are over 3,500 kids in care at any given time. a number that's likely to, again, escalate on the heels of all of this COVID crisis. But the state of California has the largest number of kids in care across the entire country with 83,000. So the numbers are really, really bleak in California, the bulk of that being in LA County. And yeah, I mean, these children are removed again for not for anything that they've done. It's reasons of abuse, neglect, abandonment, and there's a need for the courts and social services to intervene and try to improve their situation to the extent that that's possible. And if that can't be done, successful reunification between a child and their biological parents, then it's to find something better for them, another permanent family, permanent opportunity. Well, you know, sometimes that happens. You're correct in identifying that more often than not, that it doesn't go that way. And at some point when a child reaches a certain age, and after the obligations of trying to, you know, reunify and dedicate time to that have passed, you know, there's more trauma that has occurred to this child. There are more you know, psychological issues and mental health needs and educational challenges, and these children in some ways become branded, you know, difficult kids, or unadoptable is a word that used to be a term of art in this industry. It's really horrible. But at a certain age, it becomes less likely, right, that that's going to happen for them. And
because nobody wants to adopt somebody else's problem. We went into the system, I admit, hoping that we'd find that little, you know, untainted child or baby that hadn't been ruined by the situation, and then we quickly find, oh, there's a million people who want those. And we were older, so we opted to adopt an older child. And oh my God, I mean, these kids have been marred now. But the good news is they're shapeable. They bounce back. They're not lost.
Right. No, well, they're children. They're resilient. They've been through a lot. They've, you know, they're afraid. It runs the gamut of experiences that they've had. They've not had a great experience. And though foster care is meant to be a solution to a problem, it often creates a whole nother slew of problems for children.
Our daughter went through 4 or 5 foster homes before we found her.
That's not atypical, it's unfortunately. And a number of different schools, it's quite difficult. So the solution is not a real solution. And yeah, the best that we can do is continue to offer that support to them. These days you can stay in the system until you're 21.
I thought it was 18.
If you elect to do
right.
so.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a struggle. It's tricky.
So back to the key point. Who pays you? I thought it's court appointed. The court pays you. Don't we pay through the court system here?
No. So no, we don't get money from the court system. We're not really while we're a codified part of the process through the governing statutory authority, we're not paid as part of the court process. So we do all of our fundraising privately. That's not entirely true, actually. We do get about 13% of our revenue comes from government grants, government money, but the bulk of our fundraising is done privately with events, individuals, foundations, and just the generosity of our community.
Jill, let's talk about that for a second. So as a committee member, I know the gala is always a great event each year and raises lots and lots of money. And I know that we had to push and postpone. So now we're scheduled in September for a virtual event. So what is that shaping up to look like?
Yeah, well, again, thank you for all of your support as a committee member, Bart. You do wonderful things for CASA, and we're so grateful. Yes, we were supposed to have our largest fundraiser of the year on March 14th. We decided, prior to being told that we couldn't have it, we decided to move it to September 26th, just in anticipation of what was going on. It was a large-scale celebration honoring 35 years of CASA in Orange County and the support and achievements that the organization has made over all those years. While we were hopeful to be able to have it in September, it's not going to happen. It's going to be a virtual event. And that this is sort of the interesting world that we're in. It will be our first time doing a virtual event. I know a couple nonprofits, or a few, are making that shift and giving it a try. But I'm actually pretty excited about the way this is shaping up. I think it's going to be it's obviously going to be different, but I think it's going to be a really great event. We've been working with our team and our chairs to create a virtual experience that will include a drive-through where you pick up your food from Vaca. Vaca is going to be helping to provide the food that our sponsors and ticket holders have purchased for the night. There'll be a drive-through area where you can come and get your dinner and your wine and a little flower arrangement. And I think there's even going to be a step and repeat. And yeah, kind of, if you want to get out with your mask or not, you can, participate there. Some of our larger sponsors will have the opportunity to have an in-home event if they want to do that. Maybe invite the folks that would have sat at their table, and make it a little bit more of a social occasion in as much as you can. And we'll have a virtual event with our honorees and our speaker, and that will be open to the public. So anybody who wants to sign on and participate and check it out and see what that is like, someone who might not otherwise have been able to come to our event or been interested but wants to see how we're handling this, we welcome them to come and check it out. So we're hopeful that it will be a good pivot.
That's quite a pivot, and it sounds like it's going to be amazing.
Can I ask Bart a question? Maybe I'm going to put him on the spot here. Maybe he doesn't want to answer this, but I knew you were on before, and I don't recall if I asked him at this time. How did you get involved in this, Bart? I mean, this is a very this is not a group that, I'm sorry to say, most people probably know about. The foster care system is confusing and under the radar enough, much less parts of the process like CASA. How did you find them and decide to get involved?
Well, as I get older and older, the more I realize that anything to do with children really tugs at my heart. And this obviously is about children. And I did come across them through some mutual friends that were already involved, and they, knowing where my heart was, thought this might be of some interest to me. And the first time that I came and learned more about it, I realized that it was time well spent.
Were you surprised that there was something like this? I mean, I was surprised when we got into the foster care system how little I knew about it. And then as I've talked about it through the years, I mean, people know it exists, but they know nothing about it. It's really under the radar. How it works, who's in it, what all of this information. But we got all these kids floating around there, and they're sort of off the radar for 90% of the world here.
Yeah, I knew nothing about this. I know what foster children are, and I knew that existed. I didn't know the numbers. I didn't know statistics. I didn't know of what a CASA was. And so, yeah, it's been quite an eye-opener and in a great way.
Give us a story, either one of you, of where a CASA made a big impact. They didn't just, too often they think of advocates as just somebody moving the process along, and it's a long process as they try and reconcile, and then eventually they move on to trying to adopt them and all these things. It's a multi-year, multi-hearing kind of process that goes on and on. But tell us a happy story here.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Every story to me involving a CASA is a happy story, regardless of the outcome, because I feel like, and there are some, don't get me wrong, incredible, astronomical changes, life-altering changes that a CASA has been responsible for creating in the life of a foster youth, in terms of helping them to achieve educational aspirations, employment aspirations. Just basic human functioning, goals that would have gone otherwise ignored or untreated because there was nobody to advocate and speak up and identify that these are issues that are easily addressed if someone can just make the right referral or put this kid in the right classroom and get them the services they need. But the fact that these are volunteers, these are people that take time. Most people volunteer, right? They want to get that good high out of doing something really rewarding and really
they want to hand somebody something. They want to see a smile on their face. They want to pass out a present or a meal or whatever. Yeah.
Right. These volunteers are, I call them angels in human form. They go through 30 hours of training. They subject themselves to interviews and background checks and, all kinds of references and whatnot. And then they become sworn in as officers of the court. They get matched with a child who, let's be honest, a lot of these kids are not some of them might be really excited to get matched up with the CASA, but some of them are very weary and untrusting. And you know, what are you here for? Everybody that's in my life is paid to be here. You don't care about me. They kind of push. It can be really hard to develop that connection. And these advocates keep coming back. They keep coming back. And sometimes it can take a while for there to be progress. And sometimes, sadly, the advocate might not during the life of that relationship necessarily feel that from the child. But it comes around. The stories of youth reaching back out and saying, you were there for me, you helped me, you were the only one that believed in me, the only one that showed up for me, the only person that wasn't paid to be in my life. I mean, it's huge. So to me, I don't know, every story is remarkable because they all involve someone like one of our CASA volunteers that just does incredible stuff in the life of a child. And every small progress is huge progress for that kid.
Most of the kids I saw, and we looked at quite a few and immersed ourselves in this, a lot of them are angry. A lot of them are suspicious of everybody. Every adult they know has screwed them over, and they're very weary, and they're very distant, and they're not just scared, they're angry. How did I get here, and why is this happening to me, and what's going to happen next? Understandably.
Right.
And so you have to have a lot of patience to go through the process.
You have to have a lot of patience. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. 35-year anniversary. That's just Orange County, correct? Okay.
That's just Orange County.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does that compare, like, to the other counties or country? How long has the whole program been?
Yeah, the organization was founded in Seattle by a judge, actually, who felt like they needed more information to make sort of these life-altering decisions on behalf of kids that were in the system, for, you know, maybe even being raised and emancipated by the system. And so they created this program whereby a volunteer would come in and occupy that space in 1978 in Seattle. So it's been around for, 42 years. And in Orange County, it was started here with a lot of support from the Junior League, and really kind of got up and running. And we're sharing a bunch of success stories and stories, origin stories, and about how we've come to be over the years throughout this process. They'll be available by the time we have our virtual event in September.
So other than the event, discuss how people can actually help.
Yeah, so I mean, the major ways that the CASA is successful is through buying through the volunteerism of our community members who are able to dedicate this kind of time and have the ability to keep coming back and showing up. Consistency really is important for these kids who've been abandoned and haven't had that. So we want to make sure they know what they're getting themselves into. But if they're up for it, volunteering is a great place to start. We always need volunteers. Out of those 3,500 kids in foster care in Orange County, we're only serving a fraction of them, 800 per year roughly. So with a one-to-one match. We'll serve kids on the wait list and in other ways, but that match is pretty critical. So volunteerism is huge. You can go online at www.casaoc.org to sign up for an information session and learn a little bit more about what that process looks like. Supporting us financially and through there aren't a lot of significant volunteer opportunities apart from the advocate role. They're few and far between because we really are about creating that match, that one-on-one connection. But it takes a village to get us there. We've got to recruit these folks. We've got to train them. We've got to coach them through the chaotic bureaucratic system that is our foster care system and the court process. So we have a team of case supervisors and a program staff that help our advocates make it through. So
what's a typical CASA advocate look like? Are they young and idealistic? Are they old grandmas looking for something to do? Are they, I don't know, are they attorneys? Are they social worker types? So
I tell people, they look like everybody, but I say that we're looking for people that are over 21, gonna clear a background check, open mind, open heart. That is what we're looking for. You fit those categories, you're for us, and I think we're for you. But we get young folks. We've got lots of folks that have finished raising their own children and are looking to do something meaningful as they're kind of in that empty nester phase. I just got off a a call with a group of folks with our advocate who's been with us the longest. She has been an advocate for 24 years. It's just so, again, for most people, we ask for a 2-year commitment. We do ask for that, again, for that consistency. But we have a lot of volunteers that will end their relationship for one reason or another and take another case and keep going. And sadly,
and they make what, $500,000 a year or so? How much do they make for this?
No, this is a volunteer role.
What?
Again, that's why it's so remarkable.
Yeah,
it's very remarkable.
It's such a great program.
Yeah.
Regan, you may or may not recall that I get the honor of asking a final thought question. And it's
Yeah.
at the end of the show, and we're approaching that time. So what is your ultimate lesson learned over your career with CASA?
Yeah, so I think when I was asked this question before, and I think the answer is pretty similar to what it was before. It's that, in this industry where we're seeing so many horrible things that are happening to these kids, you couldn't imagine, and you wouldn't want to wish upon your worst enemy. So it starts from a very painful place. But what I think, privilege and the great fortune of being able to see all good in people, the people who are coming in to help, to be a part of the solution, to step and volunteer their time, to donate their dollars to care. And I feel very fortunate to be able to see, I think that people are inherently and want to be a part of the solution. And I really value getting to see that through this role.
Great. Tell everyone how they can reach you or reach your organization.
Yes. Please come to our website at www.casaoc.org. You can learn there about becoming an advocate, sign up for an info session, make a donation, learn about our events that are coming up. We'd love to have you at our September virtual event that's just available for anyone. So please check us out, and you can. We're not all in the office just yet. We're there in and out, but you can certainly reach us via email and online.
That's so great. Regan, I know you've been extremely busy lately, and so I want to thank you for taking the time. It was great having you on the show again. I look forward to seeing you in 3-dimension here sooner rather than later.
Always a pleasure, Bart. Thank you so much. And good
Paul,
to
great.
see you too, Paul.
Good to see you, Paul.
Well, you're doing good work. Keep it up here. I'm telling you,
So
in these times, we need it more than ever. We need to be inspired that people are basically good. We're so.
For sure.
That's
For
for
sure.
sure. All right. So I want to thank everyone who has tuned in, and we look forward to being back in the studio again next week. Cheers.
Thank you.
Tune in next week for the latest edition of the Zandbergen Report, Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Catch up on our recent shows by visiting bartzandbergen.podbean.com. The Zandbergen Report is also available on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Interested in being a featured guest on our show, or have a question you'd like to hear us answer? Email podcast@bartzandbergen.com. Bart A. Zandbergen, CFP, and Letitia Burbaum, AIF, are registered investment advisors with Optivest Inc. and registered representatives with Gramercy Securities Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Investment advisory services are offered by Optivest Inc. under SEC registration.